How comes nobody is talking about nyota ya Brian Chira? Ama mja notice? You know, this guy at only 21 years old, he's managed to bring together the whole of TikTok. Like, sijaona mtu mwingine amechangiwa inafika 10 million. And I've never met Brian Chira like personally, but I've been watching a lot of his clips, and especially now when I was doing research for this video, nimekuwa nikiwatch different types of nimekuwa nikiwatch video mob sana zake. And one thing I've noticed about this guy, he had a very his legacy is hard to understand. He's controversial. Some of the videos nilikuwa namwangalia, and this kid was bright, was brilliant, he was smart. Kisikia vile anaongea, the way ana reason, he had a very good command of English. And then unaona video zingine anafanya vitu zingine mpaka you are like, wow, don't you have friends or something? And up to now, after kuwatch hizo video zote, I still don't understand what Chira was all about. You know, he was one of the most popular TikTokers in Kenya, but sijashika kabisa, you know, what brand he was on. Because, and then I watched another video of his friend anaitwa Batalisha on Obina akisema they tried to advise Chira to at least do something isukumeo brand yake, because he was very popular, and huwezi sema kabisa he was a musician, he was an actor. Like, Chira was this guy who was just famous. You don't become famous for nothing. People love this guy. Na kama umeona mazishi yake, then you know this guy was loved. Despite all his controversies, all his shortcomings, and everything that Chira did or represented, watu walikuwa wanampenda. Nimekuwa nikisikia watu akisema, oh, mbona hii love mko mnaishow when he was alive? I saw a video whereby sijui what was happening in his life, but people came, wakamchangia, they even got him a house. And guys changad like, I don't know if it was 300 or half a million, but that's a lot of money. And then the same people aliwachangia tena alikuja online akawatusi. Like, you listen to his friends talk, he's the kind of guy unamfanyia hivi leo, kesho amesahau anakutusi, ama mnapanga kitu na yeye, he does the opposite thing. Like, unachoka na yeye, he comes back, he apologizes, mnarudia. Like, he had a very interesting personality. But all in all, people still loved him. And that's why even in his death, watu wame come through kumchangio doyote to give him a befitting send-off. It's very hard for a 21-year-old to attract such a crowd. And I've also seen his fans wame decide one of his wishes was to build the grandmother a house, and mafans wako wamecheza kiproper, and now they're going to get the grandmother a house, which is very nice. And that brings him back to my topic, nyota ya Chira. Chira ni mtu alikuwa na nyota kupendwa na watu. Chira ni mtu alikuwa na nyota umaarufu. The only problem is, I don't think Chira at one point really knew who he was. So I think kwa hii journey yote yenye tunaona, at times he's very smart, other times, you know, he's drunk, he's doing all these sorts of things. I think hii time yote he was just trying to understand himself as well, trying to find himself. And hiyo pia ni kitu moja naona, it's like fans wake wamekam kukubali and they've accepted him as he was. It's very rare kama una ile nyota kupendwa na watu, it's very rare for people to understand you when you're as complicated as Brian Chira was. And that's why I keep telling you, it's very important to know your 4 T's. And T number 1, we say, know thyself. Know who you are, what your values are, what your emotions are, what's important to you, what's your self-perception, how do you see yourself, how do you present yourself to the world. T number 2 is thy past. Where do you come from? How are you loved as a child? What are some of the blockages that you picked up as a child? What are things from your childhood that are you running away from? Ni vitu gani uliona kwa childhood yako ukasema, when I grow up I want to do this, or I don't want to do this? Because I think Chira had this problem whereby his family ilikuwa too complicated tu kivyake. And even in death umeona a lot of rejection has come. Mara sijui grandfather yake amekata sijui aziko wapi. Like, this guy alikuwa amebeba vitu mingi sana kwa roho yake. You know, as much as we are trying to say he was like this or he was like this, he's a guy who was battling a lot of stuff from his past. Key number 3, we call it thy purpose. You need to know your purpose. Why are you in this world? And I don't think Chira alikuwa amefika hiyo area ya self realization kujua purpose yake ni gani. And lastly, key number 4 is thy path. Know what path you're on, what phase you're in your life, and the direction that your life is taking. So I think Chira passed on a bit too early. At 21, he was very young. He was still trying to find himself. And it's even harder to find yourself when you're in the limelight, because every small thing you do, kuna watu wanakumulika. There are so many people who try to come through for him, kumu-advise. Some of the advice I had was solid. There's this lady mwenye alikuwa anamwambia about pombe, achana na hii pombe itakumaliza. If you're not careful, tutakuja very soon kukuzika because of that pombe. And then, you know, some of these things, kuna vile he didn't find himself time kuweza ku overcome some of these things. So I don't think he's a person we should be judging. Okay? So he's one person we should be learning a lot from. Unaweza kuwa na nyota safi sana but we mwenyewe haujielewi. Unaweza kuwa na nyota safi sana but ujui mbona uko nayo. Like you seeing things happening and you're not able to explain why it's happening. Chira knew he was famous. Chira knew people liked him. Chira knew people were talking about him. But akwa ijuliza like who really Chira is. Like if he had something and if he did something with his brand, Chira would have become one of the biggest influencers this country has ever seen. I've seen some people wenye mpaka hata wanajua they've rose to fame because of Chira. Yani like people who associated themselves with Chira and that's how they got the numbers that they have on social media. Like huu ni mtu mpaka nyota yake is so bright that other people can tap into it. And don't be surprised when you see people at his funeral, wanaenda kwa kaburi yake wanachukua mchanga kidogo, wanaeka kwa bag wanabeba, ama wanaenda wanatafuta kitu, you know, Chira alikuwa na own kama nguo, toothbrush, nini, and they take those things to go and try and tap into Chira's star because that kid had a really bright star. That practice inaitwa necromancy, where people try to go and kutumia grace ya mtu mwenye amekufa. It has happened to music artists wana visit those icons wa music wenye walikuwa kitambo. Pastors do that. A lot of pastors do that. It's just that they don't say it. And that's why unaonanga graves za wale watu popular zo kwanga zimeprotectiangwa sana. Ujuangi kwenye waliziko ama place yenye waliziko inakuanga ni place guarded. It's because some people come and use that grave as a shrine so that wa tap into nyota huyo mtu. And Chira had one of those very bright stars. So kiona watu wameanza kubeba tu mchanga ama watu wanapigania vitu za Chira, don't worry, that guy had that in him. Anyway, now Chira is gone. It's up to us now to learn from him. You know, in Africa, as Africans, when somebody passes on, we try learn something from him. And one thing we can learn from Chira is that it's very important to know who you are, know what you represent, what your purpose in this world is, what you're supposed to be doing with your life. It's also very good to understand your past. What are some of the demons from your past are you fighting? Because vitu zingine kama hizi zinakuanga ni generational curses. You're fighting things that have been in your family for a long time. You're fighting battles that you inherited. Kuna vitu venye how you are brought up, how you are loved as a child. There are so many blockages in the environments that you've been through zenye zina carry on kwa life yako mpaka saizi na zina ku-affect. That's why unapatanga there are people who work hard and nothing seems to be working in their life. Kuna watu wanapoteleanga kwa drugs, watu wanapotelea in other addictions just because you didn't take a time, number one, to understand yourself, to know who you are, what your values are, what you represent, how you view yourself, and also your past. What are some of these baggages are you carrying from your past? Ni vitu gani zimekuwa zikihappen in your life since ulikuja kwa hii dunia zenye zimekuwa zikikufuata to the point you are in right now? Because sometimes you're fighting battles that are not yours. You're fighting demons that you inherited from other people. You're fighting demons that were passed down to you. And some of these battles, if you do not understand, if you're not spiritually literate, you might not understand what you're fighting. watu watakuwa wanaona kama ni kawaida, and nowadays we celebrate anybody. Hata kama mtu akona issues bado tutamcelebrate. So it's up to you now to work on knowing your 4 T's. And that's why I tell you, take time, do some self-discovery, self-reflection, or you come, we do something as simple as a reading so that we can be able to understand what is happening in your life. Where do you come from? What are you about? What your purpose is, and what is the direction that your life is supposed to be taking. Anyway, this was not about you or me. It's all about Chira, and rest in peace.